Hey, this is David Caldwell with Hillshire Realty Group. Today we're going to be reacting to a video on CNBC from Glenn Kelman. He's the CEO of Redfin. We're going to see what we agree with, probably a lot of things that I like Glenn, and what we disagree with, and just kind of looking at what's happening in the Portland market as it pertains to how he's talking about the national real estate market.
Let's get more on the health of the housing market. We turn to Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman for that. Glenn, always good to have you. Inventory problems, sort of number one, is that, or inventory, lack of inventory, the number one issue right now in housing?
It's number one, number two, and number three. So not only do we not have enough new construction because of political gridlock and financing challenges, but we also don't have anyone putting their home on the market just because they have a 30-year fixed rate below 3%.
So let's talk about that. Is that really a problem? If you're a home seller, the lack of inventory is not a problem for you. It's actually a good thing. It's what's keeping prices stable here in Portland. We have seen the rate of appreciation decline, but we are still in an appreciating market when we look at the last 12 months. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a 30-year low of new listings coming to the market. And even though these higher interest rates have dampened demand from buyers, they've dampened the demand to sell even more. As Glenn just pointed out, so many sellers have an interest rate of 3% or less. And if you have that rate, it's gonna take a special house to make a trade.
So nobody wants to sell a home right now, and there's still plenty of people who want to move.
So what changes that? What will be the change agent here, so to speak?
Well, I think we're going to be on hold until rates come down. 7% rates aren't that bad historically, but it's been such a steep rate increase that many people have very low mortgage rates and very long to go on those mortgages. So they're going to hold out until rates come down a little bit. Most people couldn't buy the house that they bought 2 or 3 years ago. So it's unthinkable for them to move up. We've seen a slight uptick over the weekend.
Yeah, that's one thing we talk about a lot is there's lots of people in the Portland metro area that are living in $800,000, $900,000, $1 million homes that they paid for 2-3 years ago that they could not afford that home today. And that's gonna keep a lot of people in place for the foreseeable future. Now, he is talking about 7% interest rates. Really, if we look at like the last 90-day period, we're averaging more in the sixes, but even in the sixes is a high enough interest rate to keep a lot of people out of the market or keep a lot of people in their home. There's a lot of research that shows that we probably won't open up, like when is this gonna change, until rates get into the fives. Depending on what you read, that could be 2 or 3 years from now, or it could be next year. The reality is we don't know. If you're a home seller, we're probably gonna be in a low inventory market in Portland for the foreseeable future. We've really been there for about 10 years because of a lack of new construction. If you're a home buyer, don't let that discourage you. You do have quite a bit of homes to choose from on the market, and there's no timeline that says you have to buy next month. You can take time to shop. You could take time to wait for some interest rates to adjust. Just don't take too much time, because we are still seeing that 12-month rate of appreciation in positive territory.
In listing demand, some people are coming out for the summer, but it's well below where we would expect to see at this point in the season.
So with all these forces, Glenn, what's happening with prices? They're clearly not coming down as fast as the Fed wanted them to.
Yes, we've been pretty pessimistic about sales volume. We think it'll be around 4.2 million units when normally you see around 5 million, but we're pretty sticky on price. Prices are going to stay fairly high.
What he's commenting on, like 4.2 million annual sales in the United States, that's actually similar to what we saw in the Great Recession. The difference in the Great Recessions is we had an abundance of inventory, which was bringing pricing down. And what we have now is we have some of the lowest amount of inventory we've had in a 30-year period, especially here in Portland. And that's keeping pricing stable because it's just basic supply and demand coming into play.
It's going to be a real affordability crisis for the millennial generation. Many people want to move, and they just can't do it because prices aren't going to come down in this housing market correction. It's the weirdest housing market correction I've ever seen.
So let's comment on that housing market correction. We do this video every year that's what goes up must come down, or does it? If we look at the Portland housing market, we've seen appreciation in 26 of the past 30 years. And the 4 years where pricing compressed and went down was all during the Great Recession. So we don't often see housing market corrections. We see housing market adjustments, but in general, in the Portland housing market, we have seen housing market appreciation in 26 of the past 30 years.
Are they coming down faster than rent prices? Which is more affordable now, buy or rent?
Neither one is really coming down, but rents are coming down faster than home prices.
Across the country?
Mostly, yes.
What about the migration, Glenn? Has that gone the other way after we saw just such big changes in where people located during COVID?
Not really. If anything, the affordability pressure is still driving people into the center of the country, into the Sun Belt, into the American South. And so that's where we see the strongest demand. And that's where we're still seeing bidding wars. It's so crazy. People are talking on the news about a housing market crisis, but at the same time, a buyer is facing 5 or 6 bids, especially in places like Texas and Florida.
One of the things that we just looked at is in homes listed for sale in the last 90 days in the Portland metro area is homes that are on the market 14 days or less are selling at 104% of their asking price. So 4% above their asking price. That only happens in multiple offer situations. So as Glenn is pointing out, there still is high demand for good saleable homes. If you're a would-be home seller and you're thinking about selling, we'd love to connect with you and talk to you about how you can position your home for those multiple offer situations.
So I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. The one exception in Texas is that Austin is pretty flat.
Yeah, well, also Boise. I mean, a couple of those places that were particularly they benefited from that move do seem to be coming down year over year, right?
Right. Well, these little boom towns that suddenly had 1 million Californians trying to come in and buy up the whole city, those are the ones that have gone up and down like crazy. But even then, I think people have been really rate sensitive in Boise. So if rates come down just a tick, all of a sudden we've got a bunch of buyers in Boise out of the woodwork, and then they'll go back up a tick and it'll be a very quiet weekend. So even those markets are really rate sensitive right now. Buyers are looking to get in, but they just need a break on rate, and maybe the debt ceiling deal will do it.
This is the least happy I've heard you in a while, Glenn. So how do you?
Oh no, you know what? I just have bronchitis.
Oh, okay.
I just have
okay,
bronchitis.
that explains it. Okay, I thought maybe it was the market getting you down. How do you grow your business in this kind of environment? We've all seen the stock collapse from the 2021 level.
So let's just pause the video there. I think major takeaways, if you're a seller looking at this information nationally, there is a housing shortage nationally. If you price your home right, if you're in a price point where there's a lot of buyers, you can still fare very well in a high interest rate environment. If you're a buyer and you're looking for opportunity, a lot of the opportunity exists in the homes that have been on the market for 30, 60, 90 days and above. Those are generally our sellers that are going to be more willing to negotiate. If you have questions about the Portland housing market, if you want to get connected with a real estate agent in another city, email us at hello@hillshirerealtygroup.com. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you next time.